I'd like to officially say good morning and welcome to everyone. For those that don't know me, my name is Sarah Hagee. I am the Executive Director here with the Electrical Association of Philadelphia. This morning, I'm joined by my colleague, Matt Dybert, who's our Program Manager, and of course, our speaker, Jim Gibson, who I will formally introduce here in a moment. First, I'd like to extend a special thank you to Joseph E. Biden Sales Corporation for their sponsorship today and connecting us with Jim. A few housekeeping items. If you've been on these calls, bear with me, but as you probably have noticed, your mics and cameras, they are both off, and that's because we are recording this session. You are welcome and encouraged to submit questions using the chat feature. My colleague Matt's going to field those questions towards the end with Jim. As always, of course, we will share the recording of today's session as well as the contact information for Jim so that you can follow up with any questions. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Jim Gibson, who serves as the Vice President of Channel Sales for MGM Transformer Company. Jim is no stranger to our industry. He's been in the industry for 25 years in various electrical product manufacturing sales and sales leadership roles, serving the needs of distributors, engineers, and end user groups. So with that, Jim, welcome, and I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Sarah. I appreciate it. And good morning, everybody. If you can't see my room, but I'm in a hotel room, and it's actually very nice to be on the road again, to be in front of customers and channel partners and so forth. And I'm excited, and I have a jacket on. I haven't worn a jacket in months, so it's a lot of fun. I'm gonna get started here. There we go. So I'll begin with a short introduction of the company, and then talk about the company in terms of value. So MGM Transformer Company has been very well known on the West Coast. They started in the early 70s as a privately held manufacturer of dry type transformers, and the owner, if you would imagine the name MGM. He wanted the company to be synonymous with quality, and so MGM Grand out in LA, because we're an LA-based company. That's the origin of the name, and the MGM little meatball. That's the CBS meatball. So the guy, Mr. Gogurchin, wanted to be synonymous with those types of things that are well known out there, and of course he did it. So we're located southeast of LA in a place called Commerce City. We have manufacturing plants both there, and also our high volume 600 volt stuff comes out of our plant in Tijuana, Mexico, with a finished goods distribution hub in San Diego. The organization, when it was put together, it was really focused on a core set of values. First of all, we are an American company, and we meet all American statutes, made in America statutes with our products. We have 22 now warehouses around the country, including Biden Sales, who we just recently partnered with. They're agent warehouses with MGM inventory, and of course that was to make the effort of getting our products very easy from a local standpoint. We are fairly vertically integrated in that we manufacture a lot of our components for our liquid transformers, as well as our enclosures. We bend all the steel and we do all the painting on our enclosures. So that gives us an advantage, and that lends itself into our lead times with respect to not so much quoting, but certainly on the production side. And one of the reasons why we're industry leaders in terms of production time to market. We are in a second generation of ownership, and the organization. One of the reasons I came on, I've been with MGM since last September, is to grow the visibility and to grow the organization from a channel perspective east. So channel relationships and channel development is something that we're extremely focused on. And also value. And you hear a lot of manufacturers, and you hear a lot of people talking, throw the term value around, and it primarily through their definition of what that means. What we've done is we've looked at what our customers want and what our customers define as value, and then built our services and our group around those things. And we'll talk about that stuff here moving forward. I know, Sarah, you introduced me. Just real quickly, I thought I'd give you guys a heads up on who I am and who's actually talking. I have about 9 years with Emerson Electric. I was with a joint venture with them called EGS Electrical Group. It was a JV between Emerson and the old General Signal, which had since become SPX. And I think now Emerson bought out that JV. But that was the Sola HD brands, Appleton, OZ Gedney, where I was regional management and then director of sales, and then I ran their Canadian operations for a few years up in Ontario. 6 years with Hammond Power Solutions, another Canadian manufacturer of transformers and magnetics. Was their national sales guy. So several of the people on this call I know personally and know them from either competing against or working with. And so was with those guys for a period of time. And then before that, more on the automation side with a company named Phoenix Contact, which is a German manufacturer of control and automation products, DIN rail stuff, that type of thing. And I currently reside in Reading, Pennsylvania, although we do spend a lot of time up in Holland, Michigan, along the lake shore up there. So just to give you a sense of who's doing all the talking here. Some areas that I wanted to kind of touch on in the discussion or in the presentation. Obviously, our deliverables, the things that we manufacture, and the services we provide, and the technologies and markets and so forth. Engineering as an advantage, as a competitive advantage. All too often manufacturers in our space, they have engineering and they do their quotes and so on and so forth, but they're very inaccessible. And we've changed that in a pretty dramatic way as an organization with respect to communication and the collaboration of designs for custom product. And then again, our time to market. These are things that we looked at as being extremely important to our customers from a competitive standpoint, and also against our peers. We want to be the best that we can be in terms of turning around quotes and production capabilities. So I mentioned earlier, as far as values, and these are kind of when I go out and I have conversations with people, these are kind of the 4 things that I want to focus on, because it's not so much that our peers are not as good at it as we are, it's that they just don't do it. And again, these are the things that we felt, that we've heard, and what we see as being extremely important to the contractor, to the distributor, to the end user. And first of all would be that proactive customer-facing engineering support. Our engineers are compensated not just on putting quotes together, but also on helping close them. And what that means is that they're very accessible from a communication perspective. I mean, we could turn this off and I can make a phone call. It's 5 a.m. out there, and I can get an engineer on the phone who might be doing your quote and to answer any questions and to help close that, because that's what they're compensated for doing. And I haven't seen that in the industry, and it's a piece of value that everybody likes, including myself, including on the sales side. Our manufacturing and quotation time to market. If you look at some of the lead times that are out there for production, and if you're waiting several days for a quote, we turn most of our quotes around in 24 hours. And we'll talk a little bit more about on the production side and the flexibilities there. But I think you'll be very pleasantly surprised to hear that. Our product quality, the next slide, I'll show you some of the white label stuff that we do in the market, and our technology breadth. It's not that we do it better than our peers, it's that our peers just don't have the breadth of product on the technology side, which allows our channel, our distributors to go into new markets, and allows our contractors to be able to quote different technologies for the same piece of business, and it just makes that a little bit easier for everybody. And then again, our ease of doing business. This is something else that I've worked with other companies, and I've seen some of the horror stories when it comes to things such as RMAs and other administrative processes and inventory locations and so on and so forth. And so we've designed our business around the ease of doing it with us, and we'll talk a little bit further about that as we move down through the presentation here. So our OEM, MGM, as I said, we've been around since the early 70s. A lot of the white label stuff, a lot of the brand label stuff that we do for many of the platform manufacturers. Eaton, Square D, and GE. You could, well, Rockwell Automation on the commercial industrial side. So with Rockwell, we manufacture for them all of the drive isolation transformers that they use for their legacy drive systems, of which there are quite a few out there, and continues to be for Rockwell. So the reason I put this up here is just kind of to talk a little bit about the quality aspect. So we've been doing white label manufacturing for these guys for decades, and it kind of lends itself to the quality of the product that we put out. As I said, we're in California, we're in the U.S. We take care of our employees, and as a result, we have some very good techs that do the manufacturing, and of course our engineering group, which is probably the top shelf in the industry as well. So just to give you a heads up, and some of the markets that we're in, obviously in oil and gas, data centers, and things of that nature. So I'll just run through. I don't want to bore you with this stuff. I'll run you through some of the standard product offerings that MGM has, and again, all these products are locally stocked for distribution for end users. We begin with our buck boost transformers. Again, these are transformers that are used to match your line and load voltages. If there's an inconsistency in high or low voltages, you find these in lighting, primarily in lighting applications, but also in motor, HVAC, and other types of control circuitry. MGM offers buck boosts from 50 VA up to 10 kVA, and pretty much all your standard voltage combinations that are required. And again, this is a line that we recently came out with, and have ramped up our part numbers and inventory levels around the country. So encapsulated transformers or potted transformers, you can use either one of the terms. Basically, these are just transformers that have an epoxy resin around them that's heated and then melted in, and basically nothing can get to it. They're used in very harsh locations in oil and gas applications, petrochem, where there's corrosion and moisture. Oftentimes, these are Class 1 Div 2 rated, and it just obviously for protection against any type of particulates that might get into the transformer itself. We offer single phase encapsulated from 50 VA to 25 kVA. We're also working on launching a line of 3-phase Class 1 Div 2 units primarily for oil and gas, but they can be used in several other applications. But that would be the primary one, like applications out in Western PA or down in Texas and the Gulf Coast area. And as always, we have a very large selection of primary and secondary voltage combinations. So whatever the application is, we'll probably have a part number for it. So our 600 volt class standard distribution transformers, we've got 50, 75 SKUs from 10 kVA up to 750 kVA. In fact, we stock up to 750 kVA copper and aluminum. Our made-to-order units range from 10 up to 1.5 MVA. Again, with multiple voltage combinations, size requirements. Since we bend our own steel on the enclosure side and our engineering capabilities, we can build to design specs to dimensional specs, very easily. And paint requirements. Our weather shield is integrated up to 150 kVA, and of course we offer above that. And all of our transformers come with a 10-year warranty, which is kind of industry standard these days. I mean, once a transformer is lit up and it's working, it's generally going to work for the next 20 years. And again, these are all stocked in large quantities and breadth of part number locally. Going to the engineered side, so our engineered solution. So we begin with Substation Transformers. As we started as a dry type transformer company, we bought a company out in western part of the country years ago. That was a liquid transformer company, and integrated that into our offering. So we do dry type medium voltage substations and liquid from 500 kVA up to 10 MVA. 34.5 kV class transformers. And what this has done for us and done for our customers and for our channel is to, number one, go into either new markets, whether it's municipalities or whether it's transit work or those types of things, and be able to quote from one manufacturer that does it quite well. So these are offered, and again, the applications for water, wastewater, if they're traction duty or drive isolation, for municipalities, transit work, that type of thing. And we do quite a bit. Now these are all built in California, and our components, like I said before, we manufacture a lot of our components. I think we buy the fins from a manufacturer, but outside of that, pretty much everything else is done by us. Just give you a quick overview of some of the other technology that we have. So traction duty, these are transformers that are used, or specialized transformers for like light rail applications, trackside stuff. They respond quite well to very rapid load current fluctuations. They can be dry type or liquid filled, and either indoor or outdoor. One of the things that we offer, we do a lot of work with many of the transit. So whether it's SEPTA, whether it's New York City Transit, or any of the West Coast transit authorities, we are on most of those approved on their ABLs and are recognized as a supplier to them. And that's a big deal. Obviously, if you're a contractor, you don't want to go in with somebody no one knows about. So we are active in this space, and we work with a lot of the national engineering groups that do a lot of transit work and a lot of traction duty transformers. And so we're fairly well respected in that space. So if you have an application where if it's a high rise, whether it's a resi or whether it's a high rise business park or what have you, and you need to get a large 3-phase transformer up onto the 10th floor, and you have an elevator shaft to get it through. Triplex units are made for those applications. They come in single units, single phase modules that once they're on site, they're assembled into the final transformer design. So, if you go up to Metro New York, you go to New York City or some of the places where you have a lot of high rises that are being built, generally they're going to want some type of triplex design, and so we offer that, and we've done that for quite some time. We are in alternative energy. So on the solar side, we make bidirectional transformers. These basically are used, where you have to make some type of voltage adjustments between the generating system and the utility. So the power can flow in either direction, up to 1.5 MVA, all the DOE 16 and UL rated, and they are in 3R enclosures. We do an awful lot on the solar side in the Midwest and out west, and also up in New England, believe it or not, where these are used quite often. Grounding transformers also for wind applications. And again, these are basically, for fault protection. If there's an ungrounded line, contractors and builders of these systems want to have some way to get a path to ground for their systems. And so we are one of the leading manufacturers of grounding transformers in the U.S. We do an awful lot of these for different organizations that are putting up these wind farms. And so just so you know, there's some good alternative energy transformer applications and products that we sell. And then finally, for mining, so Western PA and West Virginia and actually down in New Mexico and other parts of the country where mining is prevalent, the requirements for those transformers are primarily size related. They're generally very short transformers and packing 10 pounds of apples in a 5-pound bag, and that's kind of what we do best. Is building transformers around dimensional specifications. Now these things go in really harsh environments. We can encapsulate these, but generally speaking, it's a dimensional requirement, and we're almost always meeting those. I put a slide on here. I was debating whether to show this or not because I don't really care to introduce you to any of the leadership people in the company. But one guy that I did want to introduce and who is one of the reasons why our engineering team is as innovative as they are is that Mr. Walker. He came to us he was the R&D manager over at ABB Bland in their Bland, Virginia facility for all their dry type transformers. He is kind of the pioneer in the United States in traction duty and rectifier type transformers. Sits on all the IEEE boards. His PhD from Stanford, and the primary reason I wanted to introduce him is that whenever I first came to the company, there were some applications on large liquid transformers that required a very high degree of engineering that all of our competitors no bid. Having him on the team allowed us to actually put together a quote and bid it and made us sole spec on the bid, and we eventually got those transformers. So having that value for our customers is a really big deal, and so I just wanted to let you know that our technology is really underpinned by a guy that is known in the industry as probably the preeminent transformer guy in the country, and he's on our team. So I think that's important for you guys to know that. Talking about engineering and partnership in engineering, and again, like I mentioned before, these guys are very customer facing. They're incentivized to quote quickly. Like I said before, 95% of our quotes come out in 24 hours, which gives obviously the customer and the distributor a very competitive advantage. And the fact that you can get from these guys up to the owner of the company on a Teams meeting in a matter of minutes, really that level of collaboration, you don't see it anywhere else. And it cuts through all the red tape of emails and days of calls and everything else. So it's a real piece of value that it cuts across the industry for sure. As I mentioned earlier as well, as far as made in USA, and we're seeing a lot of this recently, especially from government contract work. But more and more requests are coming in to meet a Made in America statute, whether it's Buy America or the ARRA, what have you. We comply with all of those. We can take any of our products, manufacture them in our East LA facility, and comply without. And our cores that we get for our transformers, those are also made in the United States. So, and we're pretty proud of that, being an American company and offering those statutes. I mentioned time to market, and again, this is another huge piece of value of obviously for the contractor to be able to get your bid out and in a quick time, and to get product produced. We are leading the industry, and it's not because anyone's slow or anything. It's by design. We intentionally designed our engineering and our production capacities to be leaders in these spaces. Like I said, we can the quotes come out quickly for standard products. Yeah, you're probably looking, if it's an engineered standard product, like 600 volt class, you're talking 3 to 4 week lead time. Right now, the industry standard on liquid filled transformers are generally somewhere around 30 weeks. We're about 15 to 16 week lead times. And we have what's called a bull rush program. And again, this is capacity that we intentionally built into this organization so that if you have a down situation, you have a customer with a down situation and they're bleeding money because the transformer's down and the line's not operating. From the time we get an approval on a print and a PO, we can deliver a transformer in as short as 2 days from the time that we get the print. And of course, yeah, there's cost involved, but we have the ability to do that type of thing. So if you're if you're automotive assembly, or you're oil and gas, or you're somebody that is losing several $1,000s an hour, that's a nice option to have and be able to and for our customers to be able to offer your customers. And then finally, the next piece of value is our ease of doing business. This is probably one of the most important things. So when it comes to inventory and local inventory and supporting of our distribution and our end users, especially here in the Mid Atlantic with Biden Sales, we have substantial depth and breadth of product on their floor to support our channel partners. Bibin, one of the reasons we aligned with them recently is their industry experience. One of my goals whenever we came out and we filled out our rep channel and our distribution channel, we're beginning to develop those relationships. But on the rep side, aligning with the A guys in the market. Not so much, it's good for us, obviously, but it's really good for our customers, and that's and Bibin Sales has historically been. I mean, they've been the time in the business really goes back to the quality of the organization and the support that they offer their customers and our customers, and it's something to be highly valued. Stock support services. What I mean by this is that if you're a customer, if you're using transformers and maybe you're buying 4 or 5 of a particular liquid filled transformer or an engineered dry type transformer over the course of a year, and what we'll do is that if you're buying 5 or 8 or whatever it is, we'll build them all, and then we'll keep them on our shelf in San Diego. Your local warehouse will probably have 1 or 2, so that whenever you're ready for the next buy, instead of having to wait another whatever it is, 6-8 weeks or what have you, we have them already built up for you, and can sell them right from the floor. And I think that that's nice to have, because for us, number one, it locks in the relationship with you, and number two, it gives you the competitive advantage of having the product on the floor and available, and that's high value for you and also for your customers. And then finally, with distribution, this is where we're placing an awful lot of time, or I'm placing an awful lot of time. We're becoming more and more aligned with our top distribution around the country. We feel that having a nice mix of commercial and industrial distribution is a net positive for our customers, and I like to align with distribution that understands value, not so much from the manufacturer to them, of course that's part of it, but from them to their customers, and who share our values. So as they share our values, it's a very good alignment, and we're generally doing business with those types of guys. And then finally, this is just back to where I started, and again, these are the things that MGM has built their business around, and one of the reasons why I wanted to go and work for them is the way that they take their business to market and to the channel and to their customers. The engineering support, the customer facing, the collaborative engineering that they have, the manufacturing and quotation, time to market is critical. And that was a high value space that we wanted to make sure that we were the number one in. The product technology breadth, whether we're talking dry or liquid or traction or mining, we've got a tremendous breadth of product of technology to offer the market, and then of course finally the ease of doing business, and you know no one wants to get freight damage and have to go through the nightmare of having to deal with the freight forwarder, yourself. I mean, that's not the role of distribution or anybody else other than the manufacturer. And so that's why we, take that out of your hands and take care of it ourselves, that type of thing. And believe it or not, I know that if you're a distributor, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But that ease of doing business is one of these 4 that, again, that really drives our philosophy as an organization, and we do everything that we can to make sure that everyone understands and is aware of these things, and that in our industry, in magnetics and transformers, no one else really does these. And being with the 3rd transformer manufacturer, I'm pretty confident in saying that. So that's an overview of my slides. I wanted to leave some time. I got about 10 minutes or so, and to answer any questions that you guys might have And I'll take any questions before I do my final thank yous.
Oh, there's
So
a final thank you. Okay. All right. All right. Well, I don't see any questions quite yet, Jim.
okay.
I did submit. So guys, if you want to submit some questions, you're welcome to use the chat. In addition, we'll be sending Jim's contact information out so that you can follow up if you have any detailed questions or very specific questions for a particular job that you're working on.
Yeah, and so my final thank you is obviously to the Electrical Association of Philadelphia for allowing me the opportunity to come on here and kind of introduce MGM Transformer. As I said, they've been really well known on the west, out west for a lot of years, and our presence is growing very, very quickly as we head east, and this has a forum to be in touch with our local guys here in the Mid-Atlantic region and some other areas around the country.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a great forum, and so thank. And I also wanted to thank Joseph Bibe in sales in sponsoring MGM Transformer and putting this in front of us to be as an opportunity. As I said before, Bibe and all of our reps around the country do just an outstanding job in representing not only our brand but their entire line card. They have a fantastic warehouse in support of the channel, and I just wanted to thank Gene and Bill and Brian and everyone over there for doing this.
We do have some questions in the chat. Address them in order. Is MGM associated with Ad Buying Group?
AD.
No,
AD.
So no, we're not in AD. We're not in AD yet. We're not in IMARC. And we've intentionally stayed out for a couple of reasons. Number one, we want to get to a point where we have enough critical mass where it makes sense to do that. So what we're doing with respect to distribution is that the monies that we would spend at AD, we roll into our programs. And one of the things that I didn't mention is the ability to develop very innovative stock and growth programs for distribution. We're very flat as an organization, and my boss is the CEO, and he's out of the industry. He's from the chemical industry, and he's a Harvard grad, and he's a fantastic operations guy, and he's very smart in that he said, grow the business profitably and go do what you have to do. And so unleashing that gives us the ability. For example, we had a large regional distributor in Texas that does about, they do about 700,000 or 800,000 in stock and flow out of their warehouse, and they wanted to look at their digital footprint, improving their digital footprint, and also hiring some spec guys in the beginning of the year. But a lot of their money was tied up in inventory. And so what we did was that we used very liberal terms to put together a consignment type program. It was consignment in outcome as opposed to the weekly inventory counts and all the other administrative stuff that goes along with a consignment program, which we didn't want, but we wanted to have a program that acted as a consignment type. So we gave them extremely liberal terms on the first 6 months, and on the second months we wrapped a growth program around that and tiered that up to about 8%. And as a result, it accomplished what they wanted, and it accomplished what we wanted. So and that's kind of what we try to do is to get to a win-win, so that we're aligned with what distribution wants to accomplish as an organization, short, medium, long term, and then design programs around those things to really make an impact, as opposed to just cutting you a check at the end of the year, and slapping you on the back and say, let's do it again next year. So at some point we will be in those programs, but not yet. It'll probably be another couple of years down the road before we engage with AD or IMARC.
Thanks, Jim. Another question: do you offer weatherproof outdoor dry type transformers, and what do those look like?
Sure. Yeah. So all of our transformers are indoor or outdoor. 3R is integrated into our transformers up to 150 kVA. You can buy rodent shields, rodent protectors and rain shields above 150 kVA. We offer 4X. We offer, our potted units, our encapsulated units are for outdoor, an application for one of those potted units was down in Texas on a fence row, an electrified fence, and those are all outside and because they're weatherproof, they're waterproof. And so, yes, our dry type, we offer and as well as our substation transformers, they can be indoor or outdoor.
Thank you, Jim. How is MGM dealing with the price increases in certain commodities that is affecting multiple manufacturing companies, and how is it being communicated to the channel partners?
That's a great question, and it's a very dynamic thing. We're seeing a lot of our peers put out substantial price increases. As I mentioned before, our operations guy and the business that was put together and the way that we've assembled it are such that when it comes to grain-oriented steel for core material, we're set for the next 8 months. Copper obviously is going through the roof, and steel, other types of steel. We had a small price adjustment at the beginning of the year, which we thought was sufficient for now, and we still feel that way. The way we're communicating it to the field, we're not making just general points that, hey, you know what, these guys raised their prices 10% and we haven't done it. We're not going to kind of do that, but when I go out and I talk to distribution, and everybody is asking that question. I mean, in this industry, not just for transformers, but everything. To be able to tell them that, through hedging and through other types of maneuvering, on the material side, we're in good shape for probably the rest of this year. It's a good feeling to be able to do that, and we're probably one of the few manufacturers that are in that position. And so that's where we're at. So we're in a really good spot right now. That's not to say that if copper keeps going up, that we do another price adjustment, at the end of the year or something along those lines. But the logistics of where we build, how we build it, and how we in our vertical integration, it helps us on the price side. Whereas other people are there's 5 enclosure manufacturers around the country that everyone buys from, and if they have labor issues or decide to raise their prices to steel, everyone's going to be affected. And since we bend our own, we can buy steel in a different way, and that helps us from a cost standpoint.
Hey, thank you, Jim. One more question in the chat in regards to the dry type units. How are your dry type units prepared for shipping? Do you ship units bolted down on pallets extending 3 inches beyond all side projections of the TX? And are the units covered with waterproof cover or wrapped in plastic?
Yeah, so our standard AA items, our standard 600 volt non-engineered stuff, they are fully wrapped. They're wrapped, but you can see in there, you can see through it. There's a tip and tell that's on the transformer that'll indicate whether the unit has been tipped to a certain degree, and in shipping. They come on 2x4s. The feet are mounted on the 2x4s. Then underneath that, there's a steel brace that goes from one side to the other that kind of gives additional bracing to the transformer feet. Now, starting next week, our engineered 600 volt class stuff are all going to be shipped on pallets, and that was a request that was made a while back, and we looked at it, and it kind of makes sense because generally a lot of our 600 volt stuff is sitting in local warehouses that you can either pick up or ship same day over. Then you're not going to get anything in the way of freight damage because it's already sitting at one of our warehouses. On the engineered stuff that comes out of the West Coast, we felt that we should have those on skids, and so starting next week, up to 150 kVA, they will be skidded, and then in the coming weeks after that, we'll fill in the rest of the AS or the engineered 600 volt product stuff, and those will all be on skids.
Great. Well, it looks like we've gone through the questions that were submitted through the chat. Matt, thank you so much for facilitating. Jim, again, thank you. It's been a pleasure meeting you, learning a lot more about your organization. Once again, Joseph E. Biden Sales Corporation, thank you so much for the sponsorship. And I hope everyone has a great day. Safe travels, Jim.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.